Guys, it's me, it's Queen Aset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of An Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. So, I got a very interesting question not too long ago from Papa Bear. And Papa Bear gave me like 30 questions. So I put them all on the list, and every so often I come across one and I see an answer to it. So I was looking at this one and I thought I would talk about it because it's a very interesting question about our society and, you know, the direction that we're going in the future, even. So Papa Bear said, is chivalry dead? I love this question because I always consider myself to be very chivalrous. As a matter of fact, it's one of the traits of Aquarius. Those of us who are positive have a tendency to be chivalrous. So I really like this question a lot. So first, let's start, as always, with a working definition of what chivalry actually is. It comes from the knight system that was in Europe. And basically, chivalry is the combination of qualities expected of an ideal knight, especially courage, honor, courtesy, justice, and a readiness to help the weak. Now, at one point in time, chivalry was actually almost damn near interchangeable with the concept of manhood. A true man was chivalrous. That was actually the determination of if a man was a man or not. And for me, it's still the determination if a man is a man or not. Now, it's a very old-fashioned concept, as you can imagine from listening to how far back it goes to. But for a lot of us, especially old heads, this is what we think of when we think of manhood. So is chivalry dead? No, it's not dead, but it's not the norm anymore. It was used to be the norm for men to be chivalrous, specifically men. In modern times, men or women can be chivalrous, like I said before, consider myself to be. So I'm kind of masculine though, so maybe that's why. But yeah, it goes together. Even though I look very feminine, I have a lot of like masculine ways, and that's because of the energy of Aquarius. So I think that could be the reason why. But I think that it's just not the norm in our society like it used to be. It used to be the norm. Men at least aspired to look like they were chivalrous. Even if they really weren't, they tried to in many cases. I think what happened is that over time, one of the things I've noticed from reading history and be a lover of history, one of the things I've noticed is that chivalry became a burden on the backs of men. That's how they felt about it, because it was always up to them to, be the ideal knight, to help the weak. So now, when you talk to modern men, a lot of modern men diss chivalry. They speak out against it. They say how it's unfair to men. And it's like, are you serious? But I know why. It's because it's heavy. It's a heavy burden. And the men that I'm talking about who say things like that are men who don't want to carry the heavy burden of having to be this knightly gentleman. And it is a pretty heavy weight. And listen, it said ideal. This is the ideal. So some men don't feel like they want to be the ideal. Our society is moving more towards independence and individual energy. So that's the energy of people who take care of themselves. So these types of men don't want to have to take care of the weak. They don't want to have to be courageous. They don't want to have to be honorable, courteous, and just. They want to be able to be individualistic and do whatever it is that they want to do, which in my opinion is their prerogative. But that's why you don't see so many men being chivalrous, because so many men find it to be such a heavy burden. But then you have the other men, the men I really like, the ones who still see this as connected to their manhood. Because even, like I said before, when they can't live up to this ideal, they just do their best to aspire to being these things. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be able to perfectly be all of these things all of the time. That's a fallacy. Of course, a man is going to have a bad day. Of course, a man is going to have, situations occur where they may not be able to help the weak, or maybe in a situation where they're the weak. That's going to happen to all of us. So it's not expected that he's always going to be walking around with his chest puffed up, being this ideal knight. But the idea is that he's going to aspire to be courageous. He's going to aspire to be honorable. He's going to aspire to be courteous and just and ready to help others when possible. It's understood that he's not a robot. It's understood that he's going to be able to do these things most of the time, but not always. But that's not the message that men got. Men got the message that they had to be perfect and that they couldn't cry, they couldn't show any weakness, they can't have any feelings. That's the message that they got from this, is that they always had to live up to this ideal knightly standard. So many of them in present day denounce it. And like I said, the other ones, they still live up to it. And some of them is to their detriment, because the other half of this is that it doesn't allow them to be hurt. It doesn't allow them to be weak. If you're protecting the weak, you can't be the weak. It doesn't allow them their own emotional processes. So some of the times, those kinds of men, they have a problem. They're living up to this ideal, but it's hurting them. But my favorite ones, the ones I mentioned before, are the ones who are able to live up to this ideal when they can, and still have the emotional intelligence to know that they can still go through their processes. Just because you are knightly, just because you are honorable, doesn't mean you can't go through your emotional processes. And the ones that are really intelligent, emotionally intelligent, get that. One of my male friends is a Scorpio. I love him to death because he is all of these things, but he's not afraid to be himself. When something goes wrong, if he's feeling weak, he's not afraid to say, I'm feeling weak. He's not afraid to say, I'm not feeling like a hero today. I'm not feeling that. Today is not that day. And when he goes to those days, I'm like, I got you. I understand that. But most days, he is in that space. He is in that knightly code. And I respect it a lot. So I know that, it's different. Different people see things differently. But I have a lot of respect for that. So I can't say it's dead because I still see it. I still see it present in my contemporaries and in my elders. Not as much in the gentlemen that are younger than me, because I don't know a lot of gentlemen that are younger than me. I'm just now, through An Aquarius, meeting younger men and hearing their stories. But the population that I'm the most familiar with is my peer group and the men that are older than me. And in those groups, I see chivalry all the time, in the positive and in the negative. But it's just not as common. So I wouldn't call it dead. Something that's dead, I would never see evidence of. I would never see it. It's like roadkill, But I do see evidence of it. I just don't see it as much. I see it a lot more in history. A lot more from diaries from history, personal accounts from men and from women and children talking about activities that went on, stories of war, all the way back to the beginning of time. If you are a lover of history, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you will have seen evidence of this, at least the concept of it, throughout history. Now, whether or not it happened is a different thing. Some people will claim the chivalrous title, but then do atrocities. You can't claim the chivalrous title if you're, raping women and killing people and doing stuff that's unjust. Knights may have killed people, but it would be always for a just reason, a just cause, in protection of someone else. At least that's, again, the ideal. You see? The ideal and the reality sometimes are not the same thing. So, no, I don't think this is dead. I just think, like I said, it's not as common. There was a time when, like I said, people really aspired to be these noble men. So I would say if you're a man, or if you have a strong masculine side like I do, try to be the positive example of chivalry. Try to be courageous. Try to be honorable. Try to be courteous. Try to be just. Help the weak. All of that to me sounds like kindness and compassion. What's wrong with that? I think we should all be like that, men and women. Like I said earlier, I think we should all be chivalrous. And I think that there is room in our society for a lot more of the positive energy that comes from this. Not so much the negative, but we can at least take in the positive energy that comes from it and helping others and lifting ourselves up. Okay? So, thank you guys for checking out this video. And if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to someone else who may need to be more chivalrous, or someone who is chivalrous, and telling them I said, that's what's up. That's what's up. You get my respect. So if you would like to send me a love donation, I'll put my PayPal underneath here. If you would like to get a tarot or an oracle card reading, you can email me for an appointment. If you would like me to answer a free general question, you can email me your question, or you can put it underneath this video and I'll see it and I'll put it on my list. Likewise, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So if you would like to check me out online, please drop me a message. And I think that's it. All right, guys. See you later.